So as you can see on the front, I've got here real-time cash flow confidence, and that's what we at Float really tried to provide with our tool. If you haven't already jumped into your Float account, you'll see this is a quick snapshot of what it looks like. So we are a visual operational cash flow forecasting and management tool. We connect to QuickBooks, Xero, and FreeAgent. And like I say, it's super visual. So you can see here we've got key numbers at the top that we want to draw your attention to, and we've got a very visual graph that shows you the highs and the lows of what your cash is doing week to week, day to day, or month to month, going as far as up to 3 years in advance. If you haven't already signed up, we have got a 2-week free trial. You can find this on our website. It's, as it says, 2 weeks, it's free, and you don't even need to pop your bank details in when you sign up. You would pop them in at the end of the trial if you want to subscribe. So what we do is we connect to your accounting platform, and it pulls across all your kind of your information through, and we've got a daily sync. So we've got a sync that is every 24 hours. You can choose which hour within the 24-hour window that you want this to sync. So if you tend to do a lot of work in your accounting platform in the morning, then you could have it sync, say 11 o'clock, and then everything would be up to date and Float, come the afternoon. You can also change this within your settings. So yeah, if you haven't already jumped on the free trial, it's super easy to set up. Depending on how much information you have in your accounting platform, it can take minutes to connect, or it can take up to maybe 10 minutes if you've got a lot of information in there, but it is super quick to set up. So please do jump on there and have a play around. And if you have got any questions about that, please let me know. So what problem do we at Float solve? I'm skipping ahead there. So you can see here a spreadsheet. I'm sure many of you have or have seen a spreadsheet. This is a cash flow forecast spreadsheet running right till the end of the year. And I personally find it's quite a lot of information. My eyes are kind of dragged all over the page. I don't really know exactly where I'm looking for the key information. And we all know spreadsheets can get out of date really quickly. They're quite clunky. And if you share a link with somebody, then they might update it and not tell you, and it can get all out of hand quite quickly. Whereas with Float, this is what we look like. So, as I mentioned, we've got key figures at the top that we want to draw your attention to. And we've got a very visual graph at the bottom, to help really visualize what your cash is doing. So I would say, from the spreadsheet example to what we provide, there's definitely a huge amount of time saved. And that is something that our customers have mentioned, that they save a lot of time because we've got the automatic sync with your accounting platform. We've done a lot of research over the years that we've been in operation, and business owners who don't monitor their cash put their business at risk. 81% of businesses that fail cite cash flow as one of the main reasons. So it's really important to know what your cash is doing. Not seeing what's ahead just means you can't properly plan for the future. So if you've ever found yourself asking questions like, when will my cash reserves run out? What if a client pays late? How much cash do we need to break even? Or when can I take money out of the business? These are questions that Float can help you answer. More so even this year, I guess, because we've had such a wild year that is 2020. So it's been really important more than ever this year to get a real handle on what your cash is doing and play around with those what if situations. We've been lucky enough to receive some awesome reviews. So these are just a few of them here. I've pulled these from the Xero Marketplace, and we've also got some on the QuickBooks and Trustpilot. So please do jump on there and have a look. There's direct links on our website. And you can also see here we've won a few awards, which is awesome. So these are the awards that we've won. And again, you can get more information on the website there. So what we'll do now is I'm just going to come out of here and jump into my demo. So this is my demo account here. As you can see, this is the overview page. And this is the page that apologies if you just heard my calendar pinging there. This is the overview page, and this is the page that you'll land on when you first log into Float. So I've mentioned the key figures at the side here, so I'll go into a bit of detail here in a second. But first I want to mention that what I'm going to be running through with you is the top 4 things that we recommend that you do when you first sign up to a trial or when you first log into your account. You need to get into the habit of checking these things. The reason that we want you to get into the habit of making sure these items are up to date and correct is that these 4 steps are going to make you have an accurate cash flow. That's something I probably say a whole bunch during webinars is we're trying to get your cash flow accurate. And these 4 steps are really what we suggest to help you do that. So the first thing that we want to draw your attention to is the items that need to be reconciled or unmatched items if you were a QuickBook user. So I've got 28 items missing in my cash flow. So that's almost £5,500 that needs to be reconciled. So I know if I was to go in and directly work within my cash flow, that I would be almost £5,500 out. And because I've only got 10,000 in my bank, that's actually going to have quite an impact, and I'm going to be wildly inaccurate when I look at my cash flow. So you really want to make sure that your reconciled and your unmatched items are up to date. Depending on how many transactions you have coming in and out of your company, you might want to do this daily, weekly, or maybe monthly, but it's a good idea just to keep on top of that to make sure that what you're playing with in float is up to date and accurate. So that's your reconciled or your unmatched items. You'll also get a super satisfying green tick on these once you finish, which I quite like. So the next step that I would double check is your invoices and your bills to pay. Again, if these are out of date or past their expected date, sorry, then it's going to skew your cash flow. So you really want to make sure that these are as up to date as possible to reflect your accurate cash flow. So you can hit these buttons here and it'll take you to the tabs, or you can go to the top and you've got the invoice due and bills to pay tab. You can also see we've got an exclamation mark at the top here to show you that action needs to be done within these tabs. So just a further recognition that something needs to go on. So we'll click into the invoice due tab. And we'll see I've got a total of 12 outstanding invoices, 11 overdue, and 11 past their expected date. To understand when bills and invoices will be paid, Float uses the expected payment dates, which are different from due dates. An expected payment date is a date that you actually think the cash will be paid on your experience, or because you've spoken to the person who's paying it. So setting these accurately will make sure you have an accurate forecast going forward. So because I've got 11 past their expected date, Float just does not know when they're going to get paid. So because we don't know, we pull them all to today's date. So they all get dragged to today's date. So if I didn't action anything today, that would then be on tomorrow's date, if tomorrow. So it's important to keep these up to date. Because that can really skew what your cash is doing. So you can see here I've got a big red line because these are all past their expected date. So let's take a look at actioning some of these. It's just also worth mentioning everything I do within the invoice due tab, you can do in the bills to pay tab. The functionalities are exactly the same. So what we'll do is we'll jump down here. So you can see here I've got a couple items excluded. So that's because I actually just don't know when they're going to be coming in. So I've excluded them. So they're not completely deleted. I can re-add them at any time that I want, or I can exclude them again. So what I could do is I could either do a search. So I could search for city limousines and I could pull these up, and then I could do a batch action on these. So I can go to batch action here and I can exclude them, or I can set an expected date. So I could do this by a specific number of days or to a specific date. And so I'm going to go to tomorrow because I have faith that they're going to get paid tomorrow. So I'm going to apply these new dates. And you'll see that that's reflected now in my graph at the top. You can see that payment now coming through tomorrow. So if I remove city from the search bar, a further way that you can search is using the filters: up and coming, overdue, past expected, repeating, or draft. And then you can also kind of just scroll down. Because I've not got a whole bunch of invoices, there's only one page here, so it's quite lucky. So what I'm going to do is a batch action. So I'm going to select all of these here. Just There we go. And then I'm going to go up to batch actions and set their expected date. Again, I've got a whole bunch of faith that tomorrow is going to be the day, so I'm going to apply the new dates. And then you'll see they're all up to date. They're overdue, but they've got their new expected date as to when the payment's going to come in. And you can see that's all being moved to tomorrow. So you can see my exclamation mark's gone. And if we go back to the overview tab, you can see the nice green tick there. So we'll go into the bills to pay tab and I'll show you a little bit more functionality. Again, similarly, we've got the outstanding, overdue and past expected date. So if we scroll down, you can see they've all been dragged to today's date. So if I go down, I really like this functionality. So I'll pick one that's a bit bigger. So yeah, the 840. So again, I could include or exclude it from here. And I get a little bit more detail here. So this one's for £840. I've spoken to the Bayside Wholesale, and we've agreed that I'm not going to be able to pay this bill in one lump sum payment because I'm waiting for something to come in before I can release funds for that to go out. So it's been agreed. So I'm going to do the first payment tomorrow. There's a lot happening tomorrow. And we've agreed the second payment is going to be in January. So I'm going to add a new payment and I'm going to split this payment up so it captures accurately what my cash is doing. So I can do this by a value or a percentage. So I quite like using the percentage. Because you may say I'll pay 50% now and 50% later, for example, and you can add literally as many payments as you want and quite easily delete them. So if I hit save on here, you'll go up to the top, you'll see I've got half of the payment is due tomorrow and the other half is due on the 18th there. So I really like that feature because I think it helps you really get an accurate picture of what your cash is actually doing. It's worth mentioning that anything you update within like the expected dates, like I just shown you, doesn't go back to your accounting platform. So it's a one-way sync. So you would only ever receive fresh information. So if you update those, it won't update anything in your accounting platform. Yeah, that's most of the functionality within these two tabs we've gone over. Like I say, if you click on here, you get a bit more details and you can split the payments up, which I quite like. So I won't go through these because I'm sure you've got the hang of it now, but that is very much the second item on the docket to make sure that your invoices and your bills to pay tabs are up to date. Like I say, I would get into the habit of jumping on these when you actually are kind of in the habit of using Float, but also really important when you first set up Float to check these are in an accurate place as well. Okay, so we'll jump into the actual main cash flow now. So you can see here, I'm just going to go to my base layer. So it's so we can see here, I've got my total reconciled balance. So that's the last updated balance 9 hours ago from my Xero account. We've already gone over what needs to be reconciled. This is your threshold feature. So this feature here will show you the date that you'll fall below this figure. So you can free type in any figure you want, and it will show you the date that you fall below that. You can even do a minus figure if you have like a line of credit or anything like that. Luckily, I'm not going to fall below £5,000 in the next 3 years. This is my demo account, so I've maybe been a bit positive there. The next thing that I would really recommend that you check when you set up Float is the bank accounts that you have included. So I don't have any credit cards in here, but I really would check which one, if you have got your credit cards synced up, because you may not want these to pull through. It's as simple as do you want the balance to be included within your overall cash flow or not. You can play around with how the cash looks, by toggling on and saving and toggling them back off, depending on what vision, like what view you want to have. It's also I would check your credit cards if you want them, but also your savings account to see if you want that. It might be that you don't want to have it, so you can untoggle it there quite easily. So that would be definitely one of the top things I would do when you first log on to Float, because that's going to be the basis of your main cash flow. So you really want to make sure you're in a good place when you first start. So I'm just going to cancel that. So that's there, the bank accounts that are included. So the kind of final step in the kind of setup and when you're logging on to Float kind of steps would be to create budgets. So if I scroll down here, you'll see this is my cash position. And if I go down a little bit further, you'll see my table. And these are my budgets here. So this almost 19,000, this almost 4,000, 38, 30. These are my budgets. So budgets within Float are placeholders for cash that might come in or might leave the business. So you can almost think of them as little pots that you're filling up. So for sales in December, for example, I mentioned I've got my almost 19,000. So this is like my pot that I've created. And this is my actuals that are filling up that pot. So you can see the progress bar of how that's going along the month. So my budget is a little bit higher than what my actuals are projecting, but I've got good common knowledge and faith that what's happening in this month is going to happen. So my actuals are kind of building out. Sorry, my budgets are building out what my actuals can't build out for me just now. So I'm really creating that picture of what my cash is doing. So within your base layer, you probably want to have your budget set. If you're 80% or more sure that something's going to happen, and you don't have an invoice set up for or a bill set up for it, then really pad your cash flow out with your budgets. If you're less than 80% sure, then that's when you can play around with your scenarios. So your scenarios are up here. You can add new scenario layers. They're really the what if situation, but you want your base layer to be the accurate representation of what your cash is actually doing. That's why you want to be probably 80% more sure before you add it in as a budget. So just to quickly go over the graph here, you can see any historic, future date, sorry, it's got my base figure, and that's my budgets plus my actuals. If I go to my today's date, you can see my base and my actuals. And then if I go to historic, you can only see my actuals. And that's because budgets are those placeholders. So as soon as the date falls historic, your budgets drop off. So it's worth just keeping an eye on that. To make sure that your budgets and your actuals marry up and are kind of looking quite neat and tight together, you can look, there's a few different ways. We've got budget progress here, so you can see how they're progressing month to month. And you can also look at we've got some reports in the Insights tab as well. So if we scroll down, quickly show you, you can view this in days, weeks, or months. It's defaulted to days because it provides that more granularity, but you have got the option, and you can scroll up to 3 years ahead here. So you go all the way ahead and then you hit today, it'll ping you right back to today. You've also got the option to export to CSV or PDF. So when you first sign up to Float, you might have had one of those spreadsheets that I showed you, and you want to kind of pull the budgets or the information across. So I'll show you a few different ways to actually create the budgets. So we've got spreadsheet input here. So if you hit that, it's kind of as it sounds, it's a spreadsheet. You can copy and paste. So if I put 50 here and copy and dragged it across, that would be me creating a budget for cleaning from December right through to July. Just worth mentioning, when you do use the spreadsheet input, you can't specify the date that the budget lands on. It automatically defaults to the first of the month for all those months. So you can go in and update that later. But if you want to get a bit more granularity, then I'll show you another way of creating budgets. But that's the spreadsheet input if you do want to quickly copy and paste information over. I'm just going to discard that. So the kind of next way, and the more coherent way, and we'll get a bit more detail, is actually jumping into each line here. So I'll go into my sales line and I'll show you what I mean. So here we've got 4 budgets set up, and I've actually excluded one because I'm already kind of a little bit off from what my actuals are saying, and I don't think that this sale is going to come in, so I've excluded it for now. But to create a new budget, I would hit the create button, and I can call it whatever I want. Always super creative with my names. And I can have this occur once every week, every 2 weeks, monthly, quarterly, or yearly. I can have it, I can pick the date that it starts upon. So I could select any date. And I could pick this to run for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or right through to the end of the cash flow. I can do this by a fixed increasing or decreasing value. And I can free type in here what I want. However, on the right hand side here, we've got your last month's actuals. So you could use your last month's actuals here, or you could use the average of the last 3 months. So I could hit this button and it would pre-populate there. And you can see if I hit create, now I've got that sale in there. However, I did mention, like I said to you, that, I'm kind of over or under budget. So I'm not, in a line with what my actuals are saying. So I can see here, nothing's actually been paid yet this month. And there's 11 due. And oh, surprise, surprise, these are all the ones I updated at the start to tomorrow's date. So you can see here, I've got 11 coming in tomorrow, which total just over 12,000. Actually, we're coming to the end of December, and I've had a word with the sales team, and I don't think a few of these are going to come in. So what I want to do is go in and edit and update these. So I'm going to go into sales G, and you can see here you've got the option to ignore. So I could just completely ignore that. A reason you might want to ignore it is if you kind of have a word with your sales team and they say they're not 100% sure it's coming in, so you want to see what your cash will look like if it doesn't come in, and then you could re-add it once they get a bit more secure with it, or if they've said, actually no, we've lost that client, it's just not happening, you could just fully delete it for that month, but it would still continue every other month. You can also jump in and change the date. So if they said, actually it's going to come in, but it's actually going to land the next month now, you could pull the date, to the next month. And you can also jump in here and free type and change the figures there. I'm just going to push this back to January. So that's how you can edit and move around your budgets. You can also do bulk actions. So you could bulk edit and include or exclude them all. So I'm just going to cancel out of here. Oh no, I'll save this actually. So it's updating my budget. So you can see now, because I completely deleted the sales G, which I had just created for December, it's actually come off of here. But if I jump into January, you'll see it's in January because it's still continuing. So if I jump back into December, you'll see I'm actually going to try and get my budget in a bit more aligned with my actuals. So to do that, I'm going to remove this one as well. So I'm just going to ignore that one and then hit save. And you can see now I'm far more in line with actually what my actuals are saying. So that's a bit more of an accurate representation of what my cash is doing. And now you can see my progress bar is almost, looking like it will be full come tomorrow. So that's a quick kind of overview of budgets. I really like the phrase that they're placeholders for cash that might come in and might leave the business. If you think of them as those placeholders, then I think that kind of helps when you're setting them up. It's worth mentioning that when you do set up your budgets, if you make your budget for the whole amount that you receive, we don't have a way of kind of calculating that. So a way to kind of make that create that and capture that within your cash flows, have a VAT line. So if we scroll down here, you'll see I've got a line of VAT in here, and I've got every quarter the kind of payments that I'm going to be paying to accurately capture that to kind of offset for the whole net amount that I've done for my budgets. So to add that in, you would go to your manage table layout and you would add account. So these are only ones that you've previously had in your accounting platform. You can't add a fresh new one, but I'm sure depending on how you have your accounting platform set up, you'd have VAT to add in there. So I'll just come out of here. Okay, so let's just kind of run through a quick overview of what we've gone through today. Like I say, these are the 4 top kind of steps that we recommend doing when you first sign up to Float, but also get into the habit of checking when you log on to make sure that your cash is in an accurate place. So first thing that we want you to do is check your reconciled balance to make sure that you're working from a good place when you start. Next thing to do is check your invoices and your bills to pay tab to make sure that they're as up to date and accurate as you can be. I would, first of all, when you're setting up, definitely check your bank accounts and which ones you have included. Depending on your credit cards and your savings account, you might want to toggle those off. And if we scroll down, the next and final step to really pad out what your cash is doing is your budgets. Once you've got your budget set up, you can tweak and play around with them, but you don't really need to do a whole bunch of work because you can set them up to reoccur. So it really is just in the initial setup, getting them all kind of put into your table here to pad out how your cash is going to look going forward. So yeah, that was a kind of quick introduction into Float, as I mentioned at the start. I said I would show you quickly the Help Center. So we've got the Help Center in the top corner here. We've got lots of great articles and videos in there that goes through everything that I've just gone through and a bit more. And you can also access the blogs up there too. We've also got the support team here. So it's, as it says, we've got our business hours, but we've got a team over here in Scotland, and we've also got a team in Australia. So we don't cover the 24-hour window just yet, but we do try and get back to you as quickly as we can. So do pop a message in there, and we can get back to you as quickly as we can. I will be on there for the next hour after the webinar. So if you've got any questions, please do let me know. Or pop them into the Q&A box. You'll also be sent an email tomorrow with a link to a recording of this, and this is the first in a kind of webinar series that we have. So if you'd like to learn more about Float, we've got the next one, which is called Taking Your Cash Flow to the Next Level. And the next one will be next year now, which sounds mad because this year has gone so fast, but there'll be a link in the email for you to sign up to that as well. Within that webinar, we'll go through scenarios, the daily breakdown tab, and the insights tab. So I hope you find this useful. It's a kind of a quick run through of the top 4 things to do. I'm just checking if we have any questions just now. We don't, which is cool. But like I say, if you've got any if it pops to you when you're making a cup of tea later, or tomorrow when you're having your breakfast, just jump on support and let me know, and I can jump on and help you. So thank you so much for joining today. I know there's been quite a lot of webinars kicking around and things are starting to quiet down for Christmas, but really appreciate your time. And I hope you've learned something, and I hope to see you and speak to you again soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.